Coming up on the Chiefs Report, Kansas City has cut a former first-round wide receiver. We tell you who that is, along with they added a K-State Wildcat onto the 53-man active roster as he's going to get to play with his former teammate Felix Uzoma. We tell you more on that along with the third story today. We have a final update on Mecole Hardman and what is going on with his injury and when he could be up to return. I got to know if you're excited for today's show because I certainly am. We got a lot of good stories and a lot of interesting topics to talk about here on the Chiefs Report. So if you're excited, then type me in the comment section. And without further ado, let's get this day rolling. The first story we have today is the Chiefs cutting a former first-round pick, as yesterday the Chiefs decided to make some moves on their 53-man roster, which included cutting John Ross. Not Justin Ross, John Ross. Now, he was on the reserve/retired list, this coming from Pete Sweeney as the NFL's official transaction report, as they promoted Ekow Boye-Doe, which we will get to here in just a minute, but they have officially waived John Ross from the reserve/retired list, which opened up the spot for Boye-Doe to come in here. Now, this was coming eventually. This was seen by a lot of Chiefs media, just kind of overall. He hadn't really done much with the Chiefs. In fact, he hadn't played since signing his contract back in January. Now, the whole thing with Ross was his speed and the hope that maybe he could become a Tyreek Hill type level. Well, that just didn't really pan out, not only with the Chiefs, but anywhere in his career. Played most of it with the Bengals. He had 67 receptions, 37 games, just under 1,000 yards with 11 touchdowns. Overall, his stats weren't bad, but on the field, he just looked, well, choppy. He didn't really know how to run routes well. The only thing he had was his speed. Now, I mentioned that contract he signed with the Chiefs back in January. That was a future contract for this year. It was 1 year, $1 million, so you get that kind of added back in cap space. He did temporarily retire from football in July, which was interesting. No one really knew what was happening. Now, he did say that he wanted to return to football, but he hasn't really played a down since 2021, so I don't exactly know what he's expecting here. But kind of back to my original point, he's just a speed guy. I mean, his route running is subpar. His hands are about average, but his speed was something that was looked at across the league as this could be the next Tyreek Hill because, well, everybody thought speed equaled Tyreek Hill, but now you kind of see, oh, well, maybe it wasn't just the speed that Tyreek had. Maybe he has the ball control, the route running ability, and overall just agility-wise, it's a lot different from John Ross and kind of what he's been able to do with the Chiefs. And again, John Ross, not Justin Ross, and make sure of that. Now, let's go back to that tweet because I mentioned Ekow Boye-Doe. He was the one who actually got activated off the Chiefs practice squad into the active roster, which is absolutely amazing. We talked a lot about him in the preseason, and we were really excited about him. If you've been sticking around watching us since the preseason, you know how I feel about Ekow Boye-Doe and what he could potentially bring to this Chiefs defense. So let's welcome in here to the Chiefs 53-man roster by typing EB in the comment section. I want him to feel nice and welcomed, and the easiest way, type EB. I think he could be a presence here on the Chiefs, and it kind of shows because guess what? Well, he did pretty well in college. We'll get to those stats here as he had 74 tackles, 13 passes deflected, 1 forced fumble, and 1 fumble recovery. Overall, Kansas State, his main ability being the cornerback was just being able to cover really some top-level wide receivers throughout the Big 12 and in some bowl games as well. I think the interesting thing about Ekko is that we mentioned him a lot in preseason, and you kind of see the stats. He played in all 3 games. He had 8 tackles, which for a quarterback, it's what you expect. You hope he's not having to make too many tackles. That means he's giving up passes. I was the first one to kind of admit when we were talking about the 53-man roster that I kind of wanted him to join the squad. Now, he didn't make 53-man immediately. Obviously, went to the practice squad. But now they're going to bring him up. You have guys like Jalen Watson. Of course, you have L'Jarius and Trent McDuffie. But I think he's a guy that you could potentially see some reps for. And honestly, an undrafted free agent that actually gets to come on the roster, play a game potentially, that's a win for the Chiefs. That's a complete win if he even plays a snap. The fact that he's on the active roster is, well, that's probably a big shot right there considering you don't really expect that from undrafted free agents. Plus, given he's a Kansas State guy, he gets to play with his buddy, FAU Felix Uzoma, who has played kind of some snaps this year. It's been interesting. He's been put in some awkward situations and come in at weird times. He's played more often than you probably think, but at the same time, he hasn't really been that effective yet. But obviously, the offensive or rather defensive line has been really a strong suit of the Chiefs, so not really a need for him at this current time. But considering you may lose Chris Jones this offseason, well, FAU could become a big piece, and maybe him and Ekow Boye-Doe team up in a little Kansas State to Kansas City reunion. All right, coming up on the show, I mentioned Mecole Hardman and having an injury update on him. Well, he tweeted out, "I'll be back blank." We'll have the answer for you just after this, as we're going to give some love to our sponsor, Factor. Factor is America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service that can help you fuel up fast for breakfast, lunch, and dinner with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. Now, this holiday season, you might be looking for nutritious, convenient meals to keep you energized on jam-packed days, and Factor will save you time, allow you to eat well, and stay on track with your healthy lifestyle while tackling all your holiday to-dos. Skip the stress of meal prepping over the holidays with Factor by choosing from 35-plus weekly flavor-packed, fresh, never-frozen meals that support a healthy lifestyle and meet your meal preferences. These are all delivered right to your door and ready to eat in 2 minutes. Quick and easy. When you're too busy running around to plan lunch, Factor has you covered with lunch-to-go, effortless, wholesome meals like grain bowls and salad toppers that are ready to eat when you're on the go. No microwave needed. Head to factormeals.com/ChiefsChat50 and use code ChiefsChat50 to get 50% off. Once again, that's code ChiefsChat50 at factormeals.com/ChiefsChat50 to get 50% off. Factor is the only way you should get your ready-to-eat meal delivery service. All right, Mecole Hardman said, "I'll be back in the regular season, though." So he kind of talked and maybe a little bit of jawing of he had surgery and really didn't say anything after that. Well, he finally said, "I'm back in the regular season. I'll be back. Don't worry," which is a good thing to have. You want to see him come back before playoff time. Right now, it looks like the earliest he could return is potentially the Christmas game against the Raiders. Will we see him exactly on that game? Kind of tough to tell, given he had to have surgery on that hand. I don't exactly know. There hasn't been much of a recovery time given out for him, but we'll have to wait and see what exactly we have from Mecole Hardman. So also along the list, we have some other injury updates with Jerick McKinnon, who actually won't practice today. So if you remember, Jerick McKinnon actually got hurt in, I guess they practiced before this past game, maybe after the Eagles game, and did not play against the Raiders. Well, he's actually not practicing today. The good news, though, Nick Bolton, as suspected, is going to get some work today, which is super exciting to build up that linebacker core. He's only played in 4 games this year, but he has an interception and a pass breakup in those 4 games, and his PFF grade is sitting at 72.7. It's pretty nice for a linebacker. I'm excited to hopefully have him back in the coming days. And at the same time, you also want to see and hope that maybe him and Drew Tranquill can kind of team up for a dual combo at that linebacker position. There's been a lot of injury news here on the Chiefs Report. We've had to talk about a lot with maybe Kadarius Toney, Mecole Hardman, Jerick McKinnon, Nick Bolton. To some extent, there's been a couple other guys that we've had to talk about. So I need your help. I want some healthy vibes coming to this team. So like the video to keep the Chiefs healthy. That's why we're going to say we want this Chiefs team to stay healthy all season long. And hopefully there is less injuries to report on in this coming days and hopefully coming weeks. Speaking of those injuries, let's talk about the ones that we mentioned back on Monday now. Wednesday, obviously these are the ones that we talked about. Kadarius Toney with his ankle and hip, he did not play this past Sunday. Mecole Hardman with the hand, obviously on the IR, will return this regular season, but don't know when. And then Jerick McKinnon not practicing again today with that groin injury. Now you see 2 of those. We've talked about 2 of them, but the third one, well, it seems like Kadarius Toney will practice today. No reports on whether he's going to be having an injury designation, whether he is limited at practice, as it seems as though he is full go. Now, we don't have the official injury report yet to see if he has either an injury designation, if he was limited at practice, or kind of what's going on there. But he was spotted, looking pretty healthy, and it seemed like he was a full participant. Now, we'll keep you updated, but it seems like he is going to be ready to go this Sunday for the Sunday night football game against the Packers. Now, before we end today's show, I kind of want to show some love. So, the past couple days, we've kind of talked about a lot of maybe some negatives, some injuries, some maybe positives with certain wide receivers, but I feel like we haven't given enough love to some people who really deserve it this year. So we did it yesterday. I want to do it again. We're going to give some love to a couple of Chiefs players that ultimately deserve it. The first one is Patrick Mahomes, who was the offensive AFC Player of the Week. A big round of applause to Patrick Mahomes. This is the 10th time in his career he has been named AFC Player of the Week. It's super exciting, and I'm super happy for him. Big ups to Patrick Mahomes. The other guy goes from quarterback to kicker. Two important roles, two different roles, and I kind of wanted to bring up this stat that I saw. So, kicking perfection. What do you mean? Well, Butker has not missed a single field goal this year, and in fact, he actually hasn't missed a single kick this year. He is 20 of 20 on all his kicks. Now, up until this point, there's only been 3 people in the history of the NFL to hit every single kick in their season. Well, the problem with this, though, is Jason Myers at 2020, he missed a couple extra points. Brandon Aubrey, who's doing it this year with Butker, he also missed a couple extra points. Butker, though, has not. So Butker has a chance to join Anderson and Mike Vanderjagt to be the 3rd ever kicker ever to not miss a single kick in an entire season. So a big round of applause to Harrison Butker. And I want to give some love to both these guys. Let's show some love in the comments. Pick one, pick both, do both, whatever you feel like. If you want to congratulate Patrick Mahomes on the Player of the Week nod, then type Mahomes. And then if you think Harrison Butker is the best kicker in the National Football League, then do me a favor, get in the comments and type HB for Harrison Butker. I think he's probably the best kicker in the NFL, and I don't really think it's close. So that's how we're going to end the show today. Big round of applause to both Butker and Mahomes. We appreciate all you watching, and I know it takes time out of your day, and don't you think that goes unnoticed. We appreciate all of you, Chiefs Kingdom. Peace out.